Duncan Wood is director of the Wilson Center's Mexico Institute. He joins us to talk about recent events, troubling events in Mexico, the assassination of a newly elected mayor. Duncan, welcome back. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, John.
So what do we know? Let's start with the basics. What do we know with certainty about the assassination of Gisela Mota?
Well, this was a relatively young politician. I mean, she had served as a deputy beforehand, 33 years old. It's her second day in office after assuming, the office of mayor in this town of Temixco. And she's assassinated.
In her home?
In her home, shot down in her home, exactly. And it seems as though it's one of the two gangs that are fighting for control of that municipality. Los Rojos versus Guerreros Unidos, two organized crime groups which have been at each other's throats for a number of years, and in fact were involved directly or indirectly in the problem of the 43 missing students in Ayotzinapa last year that we heard about. Now this politician had campaigned on a platform of being more aggressive with organized crime. She had said that she was the woman that was going to make a difference, and clearly, or it seems as though clearly, this was a response
sent a message.
Exactly back. What's interesting in these cases is that sometimes organized crime sends a message to the politicians, and sometimes they send a message to each other.
Interesting. Competing gangs?
Yeah. So
So
often they'll say, look, this is what we're capable of. We can get to the mayor. And if you have any thoughts about perhaps working with the mayor against us, this is what we can do.
I read some coverage that suggested there may have been a hit list that included other names in addition to the mayor's. Have you heard anything about that? Is there any credence to that report?
Well, I mean, there's so many rumors circulating around at the moment that it's very, very difficult to actually to establish that.
Even though I'm attempted to lead us there. And so even on the notion of a clear political motive, that's not clear at this time either, correct?
No, it's not. And there was even an article published in the Mexican press, in one of the daily newspapers, suggesting that she had made a deal with the rival gang, and that's why this group took her out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, looking at taking the 30,000 foot view, what does this tell us about the state of safety and security in Mexico? Is this some sort of a flare-up that is indicative of, is it representative of how bad the situation is, or is this something that's an anomaly?
I think it's two things. One is that we have to recognize that this town of Temixco, which is just outside of Cuernavaca, which is a major urban center just south of Mexico City, is relatively close to the capital. But the state of Morelos, in which it's located, has been a problem of public security for a long time. In fact, over the past 6 or 7 years, the problem of homicides, kidnapping, etc., has been growing within the state. And in fact, the governor of the state of Morelos, Graco Ramirez, came in and he said that he was going to do his utmost to tackle the problem. And one of the things that he's doing is to try to put in place a unified command structure for the police forces, trying to bring together all of the municipal police forces into one statewide command structure. And this has caused many problems, in particular with the mayor of Cuernavaca, the former soccer player Cuauhtémoc Blanco, El Cuau, who is challenging him, is going to take him to the Supreme Court. So I think we see that there is a problem of violence on a local level in the state of Morelos. Then we see the problem of the rule of law in Mexico in general. The fact is that this is not an isolated incident of an elected official being taken out. One report recently put it that almost 100 have been assassinated in the past decade. Now that's a very, very big number. If it was 1 or 2 over a decade, you'd say, well, it's a developing country, it's tragic, it's wrong, but you know what, that happens. 100 is a lot of people to have been taken out.
10 a year, if that were happening in this country, could you imagine?
Exactly.
The response. So on this question of police control, whether it be a local concern or whether there be some sort of central command, what does the debate nationally in Mexico say about this?
Right, so this was actually a proposal that was put forward under the previous president, Felipe Calderón. It never got approved, and then the current president, Enrique Peña Nieto, recalled it and put it to the National Congress. And the idea is that because municipal police forces are smaller and weaker and more easily infiltrated and corrupted, it would be much better to have statewide control. And Graco Ramirez, the governor of the state of Morelos, is one of the first governors to say he's going to do this. But he did it in a very heavy-handed fashion. What he did was he basically took over control without really seeking the approval of the municipalities, and 15 municipalities across the state of Morelos. And that's what's caused this rather bitter reaction from Cuauhtemoc Blanco and others. And so this is going to be something which is going to have a big impact upon the debate nationally, particularly if Blanco takes this to the Supreme Court, because there's a very good chance that he would win that on a constitutional basis.
How should we view Blanco? Is he a reformer or a strongman? What is his motivation for this action?
You know, I think part of it is that he's new in office as well. He's trying to make his mark, of course. He has been described by the governor as being a hothead, as somebody who really isn't to be negotiated with. But I think that this is a guy who sees the problem in the city of Cuernavaca. Remember, Cuernavaca is a place where the folks from Mexico City, the nice folks from Mexico City, go on the weekends. It's a beautiful city, the city of the eternal spring, they call it. And you know, it's been a concern for a number of years about the security problems there, because being so close to Mexico City. So he's trying to make a difference there. Now, whether or not his motives are really to solve the problem of public security, or whether they are to maintain control over the police as his own private security force, or whether it's to project him onto the national stage, is unknown.
Final thought, Duncan, is does this alter the national debate, or is this just, unfortunately, 101 of 110 years?
You know, it's a very, very sad thing that's happened. And unfortunately, I would say it's just another event in Mexico's tragic recent history. It has legal implications that I just mentioned, but unfortunately, the assassination of another politician in Mexico is really not going to change the situation. The folks who really matter, the elites of Mexico City, are not going to be pushed by this event to demand significant change from the government.
Well, thanks for joining us. We'll continue to monitor this story, obviously, and we'll look forward to your next appearance.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.